بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله سيدنا محمد والصلاة والسلام على كليم الله سيدنا موسى اللهم اجمعنا بهم جميعا في الفردوس الأعلى. In the name of God, the merciful, the most merciful, may prayers and peace land on our prophets, Prophet Muhammad, the greatest, and the very man God spoken to, Prophet Moses. May we all end up with them in heaven after a very healthy and long life. Someone set their mic on, please. As we gather today, the world has changed. We are looking today at a completely different terrain, completely different region. Problem is, most people are still playing by the old rules. They're either playing out of ignorance or they're playing by the old rules on purpose to make things more complicated. Since the inception of this so-called conflict, the conflict was designed by colonial Britain and sustained by her American heirs as a conflict to be sustained for as long as possible. This is not new to the way colonial Britain and other superpowers have run the regions they control long after they have left. Have you ever heard of the North Korean, South Korean conflict? Everything in the conflict was designed to be sustained and not solved. The only breakthrough we saw was when Trump was in office. Trump had ideas for the Arab-Israeli conflict, not only because of his humanity, a love, say, for Israel, or his admiration for his Arab friends and partners. It's actually because we're looking at a completely different region. The region is now moving towards what you can call the Middle Eastern Union, which very few of you have probably heard about. At least in the media, it's rarely mentioned. The Arab Union began as the Middle Eastern Union began as the Arab NATO, which General Michael Flynn began talking about shortly after Trump got elected, before his inauguration. That kind of union is meant to bring the following countries together in the first place. 1, United Arab Emirates. 2, Saudi Arabia. 3, Bahrain, the Kingdom of Bahrain. The Republic of Jordan. Whatever the Palestinian territories in areas A and B will be called, whatever they are called, whoever they are going to belong to, they're going to be in that union. The State of Israel. This is how things will begin. Now, this is the nucleus structure for the Middle Eastern Union, which is in the works. The union might eventually grow to include Egypt and Turkey. Turkey has already begun, knowing that this is coming, they have already begun changing the ties to both Israel and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Erdogan has basically cut down his antagonization, and now he's looking more into becoming more friendly with a lot of the regional forces. The problem is, we have a few problems with some other countries, like, for example, Egypt. The President Sisi, as much as I respect the man, as a fellow Arab brother, he's got issues about allegiances. Now, what's this so-called Arab NATO or Middle Eastern Union is about? This union is designed to loosen the grip of the old structure, the old regime controlling our region. An example of that,
why is it so loud?
The NATO. If some of you could kindly switch off the mic.
Finish your fish.
I ate everything that's not.
Some of you need to switch their mics off, please.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for answering my question.
Could everyone switch their mics off, please? Because we can hear you talking in the background. Okay. The Arab NATO will first of all stabilize the country, stabilize the region. Our region has been under the tight grip or the heavy stick, large stick of the NATO. The NATO is a globalist force. We're not calling it either good or bad, but after the Soviet Union collapsed, the whole region, including Israel, has become hostage to the power in Europe, the military and the economic might of the European continent and her American France. This will stabilize this, and this will serve the very agenda of peace and prosperity of the patriots in the United States. And when we say the patriots in the United States, we're meaning the people from Trump's camp, the people from the military, the people from the Pentagon, the people from the Defense Intelligence Agency, which many people actually do not realize that the Defense Intelligence Agency is as big or even bigger than the CIA. With all of this in the works, the Arab-Israeli conflict cannot be sustained, which is exactly opposite to everything the globalist forces have been working on. A lot of you have been wondering about the so-called solutions presented to the conflict or to solve the conflict. Many of them brought more problems. And this is exactly how things are managed. And let's remember what Obama's chief of staff once said, Rahm Emanuel. I think his father is Israeli, the mayor of Chicago. He said, no crisis should go to waste. The concept has openly been create a crisis if you don't have one, and if there is one, just manage it and work both sides against the middle. This is where we, Arabs and Jews, have been for the past 75 years, if not more than that. Now, without a lot of this, revision of history, looking forward, the Arab-Israeli conflict cannot be sustained, and all the roads lead to Jordan. First of all, history-wise, let's not forget history. According to international law, Jordan is 78% of Palestine, the British mandate for Palestine. When the Britons decided to install Abdullah I, a Saudi national, actually, someone from Saudi Arabia, who was expelled from Saudi Arabia, when they decided to place him as king of that land, which is 78% of Palestine, the country was still known then as Palestine. There was no such thing as Transjordan, no Emirates of Jordan, and no Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. The Britons, and I won't go into the details because they're very interesting, decided the Britons to install this guy using their own forces. He had no power, no clan, no tribe, no forces, no money. They just put him there and they gave him 78% of the land. So initially, that country is indeed 78% of Palestine. Without going into the details of the fact of the matter that it was illegal by international law for the British colonial forces to install a governor without any form of consultation of the locals. The so-called Transjordan state has used the Palestinian pound until 1951. Until 1951, Jordan had no currency. They used the Palestinian pound, which had both Arabic, English, and Hebrew on it. Until 1946, they used the Palestinian passport. So the Bedouins, the so-called Bedouins, and the tribes of Eastern Palestine or Eastern Jordan were traveling on a British-issued Palestine passport. The Jordanian dinar, which was issued first in 1952, had the exact color, shape, and image of the rock of the dome of the rock on it without the Hebrew writing, and still till today, Google look up the Palestinian pound and the Jordanian dinar today, they look very, very identical. That said, without this all entertaining trivials, if you want to solve the problems, you need to look at Jordan, at Amman. Many ignorant people and many, unfortunately, American Jews view the king of Jordan as this, peaceful man. He's not giving us problems across our longest borders. We got to keep the guy. Well, the establishment in Israel knows better than this. But again, the establishment in Israel is not vocal. One of the key problems we have in the Middle East, both Arabs and Jews, a lot of people claim authority, especially journalists and so-called experts. They would simply write a piece, an article somewhere, claiming the authority of what's going to happen and how it's going to happen when they have absolutely no clue. And I can authoritatively tell you, there isn't a single journalist, a single well-read journalist or well-read published American Jewish or Israeli Jewish journalist at the moment who's even close to informed. And as arrogant as this may sound, they're all clueless. That's it. These are the problems we're going to solve by regime change in Jordan. Number one, who controls Hamas? All of you think that Hamas is a terror organization and the Hashemite kingdom is a peaceful organization. One Israeli Arab journalist was as dumb enough to claim that the king of Jordan is trying to neutralize a potential intifada. How fake. Jordan's king controls Hamas because Hamas, and you can look that up again, Hamas is actually quote, the Palestine chapter of Jordan's Muslim Brotherhood, end quote. Hamas is documented to have been found in cooperation between the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan and Bush Sr. when he was vice president. Reason is, Sr. claimed it's to neutralize the PLO and force them into negotiations. And the king of Jordan, Hussein, 1987, when he created them, to this day, Jordan controls Hamas. Whenever the king of Jordan has issues with Israel, whenever he wants to prove a point, whenever he wants to lobby Saudi Arabia, Hamas does the trick for him. And I can talk for hours about the details. There are conspiracy theories, yeah, but when you have the facts and evidence for them, they become conspiracy facts. It's open, documented, and I can show you where Hamas is the Palestine chapter of Jordan's Muslim Brotherhood, which is totally controlled by the King of Jordan. King of Jordan twice said, the Muslim Brotherhood is a part of my regime. Twice. He said it to the media. His wife said the same to Christiane Amanpour in 2016. Hamas, Khalid Mishal, a video of him in Turkey saying, we coordinate with our Jordanian brothers in the Jordanian government every day. Just recently, just 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, Hamas made a public statement praising the King of Jordan. When will you understand that Hamas is a proxy for the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan? I don't care what many clueless, politically blind so-called experts in the United States claim, because they have no clue. What do they know? That said, the issue with the refugees, how come Pakistan and India don't have any refugee problems? 10 million people were pushed from both sides, from one religious side to another. Hindus pushed into India from Pakistan, and Muslims pushed into Pakistan from India. How come we don't have a refugee problem today? Because when they arrived, they got the passports and they were told, this is your country. You're welcome home. That's why we don't have a refugee problem. Right now, the king of Jordan, he doesn't miss a media opportunity to remind the world that, oh, we have received, and his, he uses the Queen's accent, which is basically the very language my children speak now because they're growing up in the United Kingdom. And, with his, Cockney accent, he would just say, we have welcomed millions of Palestinian refugees. This is our country. If you move from New Hampshire to Massachusetts, how are you a refugee? Also, was there ever anything in Eastern Palestine or Jordan before us, the so-called refugees, arrived? Amman was a city of 5,000 people. We turned it into one of the most modern, most well-built cities in the Middle East, if not the best, with no resources. Simply because we are the Jews of the Arabs. I am so proud that my people are the Jews of the Arabs. We build just like the Jews do. We dominate through economy, science, knowledge, hard work, intellectualism. We built the educational system in Kuwait from nothing. Some 70 years ago, we built the educational and health system in the United Arab Emirates. Yes, we were very well paid for it by the generous rulers of the United Arab Emirates, but we did it. We built Jordan from nothing. We built the health system in Saudi Arabia. And also, believe it or not, we built the movie industry in Cairo and Egypt. All of those names are both Jews and Palestinians of, the black and white movies. So we are intellectual. We're smart. We actually, a lot of it has to do with our Jewish roots. The fact that, there's circulating evidence of high saturation of Jewish DNAs within the Palestinians, and the claim that they are Jews who were forced to convert or converted, but that's controversial. Fact is, we are a building nation, and we proudly act like the Jews do. This is like about the most flattering remark I've ever heard when someone called the Palestinians the Jews of the Arabs. That's it. Without us, there would be no Jordan. And that said, today, Jordan is the worst apartheid country in the world. Jordan is the only remaining apartheid country in the world. Jordan prevents, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan prevents 92% of the population of government jobs. They discriminate against us when we even apply for a driver's license. Most Jordanians of Palestinian heritage are afraid to deal with the government. They live in like a clandestine shadow world because if they ever come in contact with the government, they're in trouble. You cannot believe what the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan has done to us. And this is where we can obviously prove the hypocrisy of Human Rights Watch, BBC, Amnesty International. They never care about the Palestinian majority in Jordan. They never care even about the rights of the native Bedouins of Jordan. The king of Jordan, he's running one of the most ruthless dictatorships, and he's everything worse than his father. He is Saddam Hussein on steroids, and you never hear about it. That being said, if you want to solve the refugee problem, this will never be solved without Jordan, without a self-respecting ruler who would tell his citizens, this is your home. If you're a Jordanian national, this is your home. I can't kick you out to Palestine. Can you believe the king of Jordan withdrew citizenships of thousands of Jordanians of Palestinian heritage who had zero connection to Palestine just because, quote unquote, his own media says, to force them into documenting their rights in Palestine, which is a joke. He's playing both sides, Israelis, Palestinians, and also Jordanians. Now, I can complain about him forever, but it's not worth the time. We know he's a bad guy. Now we need to look into the future. The problem in Al-Waqf, in Al-Aqsa, here's another problem. The problem is that Al-Waqf, we have documented, there's a video we've documented of the people of Al-Waqf simply stating that people, we documented them, we had interviews with them, and they were saying how they would prefer if Israel would actually come and take over the place. Believe it or not, people have had enough of this king and what he does inside Al-Aqsa. And I can speak, for hours. But one thing is documented, how he is using Al-Aqsa to blackmail both the Arabs, the Jews, and everyone in between. And you need to know that he's a burden to Al-Aqsa. He sold a lot of the real estate of Al-Waqf for top money, either to Jews or to non-Jews. He is a part of the problem with Al-Waqf. And let me state this out, and you can ask anyone in the Israeli security agencies. The king of Jordan is the very one who is responsible for confrontation in Al-Waqf. Several statements made by the Israeli government. I can explain to you, once you enter into the Al-Aqsa Mosque, right to the right, first of all, it's under the full control of the gods of Al-Waqf, who are Jordanian gods, and they work with Al-Waqf. They are Jordanian national, Jordanian people. They follow the orders of Al-Waqf. Have you ever thought why, Jews and non-Muslims would be entering Al-Aqsa to visit for basically for days, weeks, months, and nothing happens, and suddenly something happens? So why today they chose to attack the, tourists entering Al-Aqsa Mosque, but not yesterday, not a year ago? Each and every time, it's the trick played by the King of Jordan, and you've heard it. Late documents and late, media circulation, the King of Jordan, his prime minister, his secretary of state, openly over the past 3 weeks have been praising those, and the prime minister who works for the King of Jordan said, we praise those who throw rocks at Israelis. Can you believe that? Also, it goes deeper than that. This is a much bigger problem than the details we're talking about. The King of Jordan is totally aligned with Iran. The alliance between the King of Jordan and Iran began in 2004. And you cannot blame the king for it, because the deep establishment in the United States, Bush Sr., Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, these names are deeply embedded with Iran, and Obama, of course. But Bush Jr. was much worse than all of them. So he's just towing the line. He's following the line of the deep globalist state in the United States and bringing Iran in. And I'll let Dr. Eddie Cohen and my colleague, Deputy Secretary of State, Nassim Al-Gouan, I'll let them explain that in details. So I will just quote what Khamenei once said. In 2015, he said, we will have the Iranian National Guards on the borders of Israel from Jordan. And everyone mocked him when he said that. And they mocked me when I tweeted it and spoke about it. Right now, we have more than 2,000 Iranian Revolutionary Guards in Jordan with Iraqi passports. And I'll give you even a little tip, an icing on the cake. 2 different occasions. And if anyone of you have their connections to the Israeli army or anyone in the Israeli intelligence agencies, ask him. On 2 different occasions, Iranian drones were shut down on Israeli borders, and they turned out to have flown from Jordan. Your government knows this. So the king is a threat to both of us. And it doesn't end there. What we have today is the king's health is failing. He's got a terminal ailment. His son is not qualified for the job. The kid has a certain problem, a certain health problem, mental health problem, which I sympathize with him, but he won't be able to take the job. Plus, the boy, the king's kid, is homosexual. I have nothing against homosexuals. I have no problems with what people do in their bedrooms. But even in conservative states, like the Bible Belt states in the United States, you cannot become a governor if you're not married with children. Imagine trying to become a king, a homosexual king, for a country of Muslims and very conservative Arabs. So the fact that he's a non-option, I'm not saying that he's bad for being homosexual. Absolutely not. All I'm saying is, it is what it is. This kid's never going to become king. And allow me to remind you of an intelligence leak, which was leaked by Dan Dayan in 2015, when he said that senior CIA and senior Mossad officers told Danny Dayan that the king of Jordan will be the last king of Jordan and shall never pass the throne to his son. And I can assure you, mark my words, before the end of the year, I doubt the king of Jordan will be able to perform any of his duties as king. And I cannot see his son taking over. And Iran is lying in wait, preparing for that day. And it's not all bleak, but it's being mismanaged.
Mudar,
What we're working on
5
right
minutes.
now, is to arrange a transition of power. We are working with the Jordanian army. We are working with the Jordanian military intelligence. We are working with the Jordanian intelligence. We are working with at least 6 other intelligence agencies, including 3 local agencies in the Middle East, 2 from Arab countries. We're working with them to secure a peaceful transmission in Jordan, where Jordan will not fall into chaos, and where I will be leading my people into a new world of peace and prosperity. The first thing we will do is recognize Israel as our partner and as our natural ally in the region. We're going to reintroduce our peace agreement with Israel. We're going to join it under the Abrahamic Accord. It's going to be scientific, public, defense, intelligence, and everything in between. We want to become an ally of Israel, not just a country with an embassy somewhere in Tel Aviv. As far as Jerusalem goes, we will keep the status quo in Al-Aqsa as is, and we think we should hand it down to the local Arabs and Jews, where they will seek a new chapter for Al-Aqsa and the Temple Mount, where freedom of religion is sustained, according to the teachings of our Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad allowed the Christians of Najran, he allowed them to perform Christian prayers inside Islam's second holiest site in Medina. So therefore, there's no point of us trying to kick Jews out from their loyal place of prayers on the Temple Mount. We need a new chapter that's more sustainable. We need to get Jordan's regime out of Al-Aqsa, and it will be gone either way once the king is gone. That said, we also will seek to enact the Jordanian Citizenship Act of 1952. According to the Jordanian Citizenship Act, Article 2 of 1952, all Palestinians who have lived in Palestine during the time the West Bank was under the Hashemite control are naturally born Jordanians, except for Jews. This is what the law says. Personally, and I will have to leave it to my parliament then and my Congress and Senate, I want to extend it to Jews. But at the same time, we need to act it as is, where all of those people who are Palestinians from within that category are actually Jordanians. I'll give you an example. Palestinians from the so-called Yarmouk refugee camp in Syria. Very few of you realize that most of them are Jordanian citizens. They hold Jordanian passports, and the king of Jordan, being the absolute dirtbag that he is, when the war broke out in Syria, he denied his own citizens the right to return to Jordan. In my case, they will have the right to return home with no questions. They will have the right to make aliyah into Jordan. They will have no questions asked. Gazans, everyone else. And guess what? None of them would choose to return to Jordan at the moment. So nobody's pushing ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from Israel. But what we're saying is they will need an outlet, a geographic, social, economic exit, which can only be Jordan. And at the same time, we will go further by also seeking to replace the Palestinian Authority, which is joined by the hip to the Hashemite Kingdom. We're seeking to replace them in areas A and B. Let's be clear. Israel doesn't want to rule Ramallah. Israel doesn't want to rule Tulkarm. Israel doesn't want to rule Jenin. Areas A and B, where 95% of Palestinians in the West Bank live, and which is a small chunk of the West Bank indeed, Israel doesn't want those cities. Israel wants to annex Area C. So what we're talking about is Israeli sovereignty over the Nashtakim, or the West Bank, and self-managed areas which actually follow the new Jordanian Republic. And let me end on this note because I've run out of time. We are looking at a new era, an era where we actually gonna break our weapons and we're gonna start harvesting our fields. We're gonna all be tasting the fruit of the vines that we will sow together and reap together. We will be brothers and sisters for the first time in the Holy Land, and we will make the first Abrahamic power strength that will echo strength, power, and prosperity across the region and the world. This is coming. This is in the pipes. This is like a fast track train that's about to hit the station. You have, and this is to everyone listening, to all the rulers of the Arab countries who will get their intelligence services to watch this, to the King of Jordan, who's about to become ex-king soon, or actually late king. To all of you, I say, this is coming. You have two options: either to ride our train and enjoy the prosperity and peace coming, or to move out of the way, or if you choose to stand still on the track opposite to a train, you know exactly what will happen. And this is not only a warning, this is actually a threat. We have a long memory. We don't forgive nor forget. At the same time, I'll repeat this a zillion times. I'm Israel Chai. I'm Yardan Chai. عاشت أمة إسرائيل. عاشت الأمة الأردنية الفلسطينية. Long live the state of Israel. Long live the nation of Israel. Long live the nation of Palestine and Jordan. And anyone who disagrees, may they hide their faces, shut their lips, or face our wrath. Thank you.